Township of Edison Zoning Board of Adjustment special meeting of September 26, 2023 is now in session. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice published in the Home News and Tribune on January 14, 2023, and has been posted in the main lobby of the municipal complex on January 3, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Bignell? Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Ayat?
Here.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Here.
Mr. Patel?
Here.
Mr. Barone?
Here.
Mr. Sadaha?
Here.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Here.
And Chairman Kumba?
Here. Madam Secretary, minutes for consideration.
We have September 19th, 2023 minutes for approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Patel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes. Madam Secretary, resolutions to be adopted.
Manish Aurora, 28 Mel Bloom Lane, Z 2020-23 for approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Patel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special meeting of the Township of Edison Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board is composed of Edison Township residents appointed by the Municipal Council who volunteer their time and service to the board. The municipal land use law requires that members successfully complete a land use training course administered by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This board also holds in-house training conducted by our board professionals. The zoning board abides by the provisions of municipal land use law, in addition to our board's bylaws. The zoning board is a quasi-judicial land use board, which differs from the township planning board. Under the municipal land use law, board members are required to be impartial and are not allowed to discuss any case prior to its consideration before the board at a hearing. All applicants will have the opportunity to present their case before the board, with the opportunity for board members and board professionals to question the applicant and their witnesses. At the conclusion of the applicant's presentation of their case, the case will be open to the public. Residents within 200 feet of the subject property will be heard, followed by residents from outside of 200 feet. All residents will be sworn in, will provide their name and address, and they will be given 6 minutes to comment on the application being considered without the opportunity for a rebuttal. Residents may ask questions of the applicant's professionals, and board professionals. The board requests that these questions are asked prior to any comments being made on the application. Once commentary begins, the resident's timer will begin. The applicant will be allowed for the opportunity of cross-examination of their witnesses. Under the law, the chair is allowed to stop any comment that is repetitive or is an attempt to filibuster the board. Further, the chair is allowed to stop any commentary that is irrelevant to the case or prohibited from the board's consideration. Once the public portion is closed, all public comment is ended unless new testimony is presented by the applicant. Following the closure of the public portion, the applicant will have the right of summation on their application. Following summation, the case will go to the board for a decision. This procedure has been followed by the board and is similar to the procedures followed by boards of adjustment statewide. The municipal land use law requires the board to engage in a balancing act and is not required to strictly apply township ordinances, zoning plan, or master plan. As a board of adjustment, variances are granted when appropriately necessary, following all legal considerations. As has been the case with prior boards, this board will see where we are if we are in session around 10:30 p.m. I ask that the applicants, professionals, and residents show respect to each other and be civil throughout all proceedings. I ask that you withhold applause, booing, or interrupting of anyone while they are speaking. That being said, Madam Secretary, first case on the agenda, please.
Case Z19, 2023, Siva Kumar Muthsemi at 5 Azalea Drive. Applicant is proposing to extend the first floor addition and construct a second-story floor addition to the rear of the existing single-family dwelling. The following standards have not been met. Max building coverage permitted is 20%, proposed is 26.6%. Max FAR permitted is 37%, proposed is 48.47%. Affected property is located in the RBB zone, designated as block number 1222, lot 13, on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Mr. Muthasamy, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you pull the microphone closer to you, just state your full name for the record.
Rock star. Yeah, be a rock star.
Sivakumar Muthusamy.
Okay. And I see that you also have Mr. Felcher next to the right of you. Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. For the
And-
record, Angelo J. Valetudo, Valetutto, licensed professional engineer and licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. Both licenses are in good stead. I've had the pleasure and honor of appearing before this board for decades.
Mr. Valetudo, we've been, as you said, you've been here before. We'll accept you as a professional.
Thank you, Mr.
You'll
Chairman.
you'll be testifying as a,
I'd like to be accepted as an engineer and a planner. While this case really is a planning case, sometimes it has to spin over to engineering.
without objection, we'll accept you as both.
Thank you, sir. May I continue?
You may continue if the applicant would like to open, or if you'd like to open, whoever would like to present the case.
No, we've had the discussion, and he'd like me to present the case. He's here, he's under oath, and we'll be able to answer any questions that may arise during the presentation. As was indicated, the subject property is known as 5 Azalea Drive, Block 1222, Lot 13, as shown on the Township of Edison tax map. It is situated on the southerly side of Azalea Drive, having a frontage of 75 feet. Subject property has a depth of 100 feet for a lot area of 7,500 square feet. Subject property is situated in the RBB building zone, requiring a minimum lot width of 85 feet and a minimum lot area of 10,000 square feet. Due to the fact that the entire area, and in particular the adjoining properties, are fully developed with single-family houses, which you'll hear are the same 75 undersized width, there is absolutely no ability for the applicant to acquire additional property to eliminate the existing bulk variance for lot width, lot area. Other existing bulk variances that are not being affected by the subject application are the minimum side yard setback. What's required is 10 feet, the existing is 8.3 feet, and the total side yard where the requirement is for 25 feet and the existing is 19.5. In addition, there is an existing bulk variance for lot coverage where the maximum requirement is 20%, existing is 21.6, and is being expanded, as you heard, by a rear addition of approximately 375 feet to bring it up to 26.6%. The last variance being sought is a use variance for the FAR, where the maximum permitted in the zone is 37%, and the proposed expansion will bring it up to 48.47%. A review of the area's development includes that 9 out of 10, or 90% of the lots that are within the adjoining area of the subject property are under a minimum of 10,000 square feet, and 8 of the 10, or 80%, are at the area which we have, the 7,500 square feet, and so that would be consistent with the subject property. Similarly, the lot width for the numbers are the same. 9 out of 10, or 90%, are under the minimum of 85%, and 8 out of 10, or 80%, are 75%, with only one additional lot that was at 76 feet, 1 foot greater, but also less than the 85. The numbers for side yard, total side yard, lot coverage are similar in terms of my findings of research of the area. The finding, in my professional opinion, verifies that the subject property is consistent with the development in the general area. With regard to lot coverage and FAR, the numbers are slightly different. The main reasoning is that the homes on the northerly side of Azalea, opposite of the subject application, are through lots that have frontages on Inman Avenue, and those lots are substantially larger than the lots of Azalea to the south and to Daphne, which is the road behind it. In addition, the homes on the north side of Azalea appear to have been constructed prior to the homes on the south side, and as such, and to further, as we said, to Daphne Court, so that this would be a more recent development than the homes on the opposite side of Azalea. Dwellings having similar lot coverages and similar FARs that we're proposing are numbers 13, 15, 17 Azalea, number 6 and number 8 Wintergreen Avenue, and numbers 1, 2, 6, and 15 Daphne Court. While most of the dwellings on the southerly side of Azalea, Wintergreen, and Daphne Court have similar construction styles, the dwellings that I just entered into the record as to what the applicant is seeking are those dwellings that have done exactly what the applicant is seeking. That is, put a room over the existing attached garage, put a second story over an existing extension in the back, and then add a 2-story addition. In reviewing the area, staying within the law by not trespassing, but taking advantage of Google Earth just to compare, that is what I found in terms of the analysis as the lots that I read into the record that would be similar to what we're proposing both in lot coverage and lot width, or excuse me, FAR. Remembering, as I stated earlier, that these lots are also the same 75 by 100 or 7,500 square feet. We offer that these dwellings, including the subject property, have been constructed with the expanding their conforming front and rear yards and not proposing any changes to their side yards or total side yards. While the lot coverage is a bulk variance, the FAR variance is a use variance under section 40:D-70 small d4, which I'd like to offer is the lesser of the D variances. The approval of an FAR under the D4 is guided by the Coventry Square Court decision and not the more restrictive Medici case, which the board is used to hearing on larger applications and site plans. Under the D4 requirement, the applicant only requires to show that the site will accommodate the problems associated with a larger FAR than is permitted. I offered that for the testimony provided in terms of the 8 or 9 lots that I testified that are similar to what the applicant is proposing and having the same FAR and the lot coverage, that does not, it meets the consistency of the applicant's proposal, and that the development, in my opinion, will not adversely affect the area. As I said, we're not coming any forward to the front yard. We're not expanding the width. That's all remaining the same. The FAR comes in by virtue of a second floor over the top of the garage and then the additions in the back. The other thing that I offer is that we still will meet the off-street parking requirement. There's no variance for that, and we're not intensifying the existing side yard, total side yard variances, or creating any front yard or rear yard variance. All of which in my opinion, would constitute the subject property, can now be able to accommodate the FAR we're proposing. Given the testimony, is my professional opinion that the board will be empowered to grant the proposed variance sought for the application based on the testimony and the adherence to the 40:55D little 4 under the Coventry Square standards. That's the testimony, subject to questions by the board and the public, the professionals, and the applicant is here. I can get into more information if you need about his family size and things of that nature, but at this point, we'll let this stand for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Valatudo. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Valatudo?
Mr. Chair?
Vice Chairman?
Yes, the houses that you mentioned and similar in the neighborhood, do they have the same FAR?
They do. I mean, obviously, I can't count, but just reviewing each one, looking at what they did, meaning all of the houses started with the same style as what the applicants have. The houses that have the higher FAR that we are proposing are the ones that have the second floor addition over the garage and the area in the back built in. And I was able to observe that as best I could, looking and staying within the right-of-way, and also reviewing the Google Earth of the area so as to be able to combine that information for my ability to make that testimony.
And the lot area is the same and also the width?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The board have any further questions?
Can we see the Google Earth?
Can you go on the microphone?
I'm sorry, Chair. Can we see the Google Earth that you're referring to?
I personally am old school, so I tend not to put this into the record, but we're going to put it in for information purposes. You want to mark it as evidence?
Can I mark it as A1?
Thank you.
As A1 is being marked as the evidence,
Mr. Valatudo, you're not on a microphone.
usually speaking loud is not my problem, but I know you're being recorded.
The folks at home can't hear you. They'd like to hear you.
Okay. The Google Earth that we just entered into the record as A1 is highlighted in yellow, the subject property. And then the lots around that area on Azalea in the back, you can see I wrote numbers on those, the address numbers, and those are the ones that I testified to along Azalea. I couldn't catch much more in the back with Daphne, but that was through my personal inspection of the area.
Mr. Valatudo, what date was the Google Earth aerial downloaded? You know?
Well, I know we retrieved it on the 1st. I don't know if the date is on it.
The date's not on it, that's why I'm asking, on the 1st of September?
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay.
And the in-ground swimming pool is going to remain?
That's not our property. Is it? Okay.
We closed it. We no longer have the,
So did you close it for the season or did you close it for good?
closed it for good.
So what are you going to do with it?
We permanently closed it. There is no pool exists now.
So do you remove the pool?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Because your survey is showing the pool on it. So if the pool be removed, what's going to go there? Grass?
Yes.
Okay. And then,
And then would be accepted on as a condition of approval should the board so decide to approve it.
thank you. And the paver, so the concrete around the pool is being removed?
Yes.
Okay. The paver walkway, paver patio on the right side of the home, is that remaining?
They will be removed. They are removed.
That's being removed as well? Okay. So since we're going further here, so we'll go in the front of the house. So I imagine the paver porch is going to remain, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a sidewalk on the right side which leads to the back of the home. Is that going to remain?
It'll be removed.
That'll be removed, okay. And then the concrete sidewalk where it says concrete, that leads to the driveway, that'll remain.
That will remain.
Okay, all right.
It'll remain.
Because, and I'm sure Mr. Ayotte would agree with me that we would need an updated survey.
Absolutely.
In the microphone, Jim,
Yep.
in the microphone.
Microphone.
Yeah, we'll need an updated survey for the application.
Once all of the conditions
Yes.
that are being proposed are met, it would be
Yes.
the as-built to show compliance.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Vice
That's
Chairman?
correct.
So you're going to fill the pool in with dirt and put grass on it? That's,
Yeah, it was already closed. I got the permit from town and then closed already,
oh, it's completed already?
completely closed.
Now, what about the drainage? You're not going to do anything, the drainage will remain the same, or you're going to improve it for the site?
Everything is removed.
That actually was for the engineer, for the drainage.
The drainage, in my observation, was that there were no issues. They didn't have the downspouts and they're not, the area in the back where the two-story addition's going to be, as shown in the architectural plan, is really not going to increase any of the impervious coverage. The impervious coverage is pretty much there. So I don't see any drainage. In Edison, the amount of an addition, I believe, is 600 square feet before we have to get involved with under drain. But if that's a concern or an issue with the board or the board's professionals, we have no problem with putting in the under drain and dry well.
That would go to the engineering department for.
Correct. And we would agree to them. And
That's
we
the-
didn't receive a report for them, but
No,
again,
you would do that, if so approved, you would do that.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Compliance. Okay.
Chair.
Mr. Brown?
Has any of the demo started, or when are you planning to start?
No demo started for the construction work.
Okay, and you will be,
I think he meant, you've already indicated you've closed the pools, but the other items that you just responded to the chairman will take place upon approval. And the question is whether that will be done, how soon after? If you received approval, will it be done? Will it be done before the end of this season, or will it be in the spring?
that's your question.
When will you intend to do that?
The
The sidewalk, everything that you indicated you were going to remove, were you going to take care of that and plant grass before the end of the planting season? Or you intend to do it in the spring?
So with respect to the pool closing, which was already done, it is already gross. We have the gross. On the sidewalk, it's already grossed. Only little bit towards the front we have as part of the construction work. When we get approval, we will remove that.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Just a little clarification. We're hearing that the pool is going to be demoed.
It was already demoed.
So what we're asking is, has any of that work started? Have you taken any permits out before the additional request of the board on the other parts that need to be demoed? So is the pool closed? Have you started any demo on it? Or when is that
I think
happening?
the testimony was, if I heard correctly, that it was closed with a permit. And so if that's the case, then we'll accept that it would be a condition. Well, it shouldn't be a condition of approval. If he says he closed it with a permit, he has to provide that proof to Mr. Ayotte and the building department, Mr. Soltesz.
And Mr. Barone, the review of the entire site of the grading and the removal of the pavers and fill with dirt and things like that, that's beyond our pay scale. That's the engineering department.
Accept that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else for the board have any questions for Mr. Valatudo or the applicant? Ms. Hernandez-Prince.
Yes, hi. I see that on the second floor, there's a laundry room, but I don't note it on the first floor. Is there a finished basement or another space where the laundry room is currently located?
On the existing floor, yes, we have the basement, but the backside of the house, we don't have, only part of the basement we have.
I think the question was, where do you do your laundry now before you go for the addition? Is it in the basement?
Which is the first floor. Sorry, I couldn't understand the question, thank you. The laundry is on the first floor.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. We will, Mr. Valtudo, do you have anything to add before we go to the public?
No, unless there was any open questions by the board members. If not, then
I think.
that's fine.
I think the board.
Or the board professionals.
No, so this, since it's a since it's a residential, we will not go to them on this one.
Okay.
So we'll now go out to the public. If there's anyone within 200 feet of the subject property wanting to be heard, if you are within 200 feet, you've received a notice via certified mail. Seeing none, we will go outside 200 feet. Anyone outside 200 feet wanting to be heard on this case? Can I get a motion to close public portion?
Motion to close public session?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Patel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed, and I will now go to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application based on meeting the positive and negative criteria and also meeting the similar criteria and characteristics in the neighborhood as presented in Exhibit A1, and that the pool will be closed, filled in with dirt and filled with grass. The pavers will be removed and the sidewalk. An updated survey will be removed. The drainage will comply with the Edison Zoning and Engineering Department. And that's it.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadada. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone,
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel,
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez Prince,
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Sadaha,
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman,
Yes on the motion.
and Chairman Kumba.
Yes on the motion. Congratulations.
Thank you for your time and courtesies.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 3-minute break just to allow the court reporter to set up for the next case. We'll be back at 7:49. The record reflect that Mr. Carley arrived at 7:36 PM. Madam Secretary, next case.
Case Z9, 2021, Krishna Adult Daycare LLC, 1691 Oak Tree Road. Applicant is proposing preliminary and final site plan approval to utilize portion of the building for an adult daycare. Standards have not been met in accordance with the master plan. Max impervious coverage required is 65%, proposed is 77.4%. Affected property is located in the RRRD zone, designated as block number 643.30, lot number 19.6 on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Good evening, Mr. Shire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Bernard Shire with the firm of Convery, and Shire. I'm representing the applicant, Krishna Adult Daycare, with regard to property located at 1691 Oak Tree Road, Block 643 DD, Lot 19F in the OS zone. The purpose of this application is to get approval to utilize a portion of an existing building for an adult daycare center of approximately 9,990 square feet. This property was an abandoned bowling alley and now is under construction for a banquet hall and restaurant, and it is our intention to utilize this portion of it for the adult daycare center. We have with us Chris Soleil from Menlo Engineering, Michael Testa, the architect, Christine Cafone, our planner, and Kamini Shah, who is one of the principals of the daycare center. Should be noted that there is already approval from the Department of Community Affairs for the state of New Jersey for the adult daycare center at this location, and a copy of that approval has been submitted to the board with the application. There are a few variances involved. One is a use variance because an adult daycare center is not an approved use in this particular zone. There is a variance for maximum impervious coverage, which is a relatively small one. The permitted in the area is 65%. The existing is 77%, and we are seeking, I believe, according to Mr. Bignell's calculation, for it 77.4%, if I'm not mistaken. The other issue was there was parking on the site at either the lot line or next to the building of 0 feet. We are actually increasing the distance from the lot line or building to something over 2 feet. The hours of operation for the adult daycare are going to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the people utilizing the facility will all be brought and taken home in vans supplied by the daycare center. There will not be cars bringing people in. If there are no preliminary questions, I would call Mr. Soleil.
Does the board have any questions? No. You may proceed.
Mr. Soleil, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, just state your full name for the record.
Yes, my name is Christopher Soleil. Last name is S as in Sam, Z as in Zebra, A-L-A-Y.
And Mr. Soleil, if you could just please give us a brief summary of your qualifications.
Yes, I currently work at Menlo Engineering Associates, located at 261 Cleveland Avenue in Highland Park, New Jersey. I graduated from the University of Rhode Island with a civil engineering degree in 2008, and I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2013, and my license is in good standing.
You answered my question. Thank you very much. You may accept it. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Soleil, Menlo Engineering prepared the site plan and all revisions for this project.
That's correct.
Could you briefly describe for the board the existing situation of the property?
Yes, and we have prepared for you 2 exhibits. this evening. That will mark into evidence. This will help with my testimony in regards to the existing condition, but the first exhibit is entitled Krishna Adult Daycare Existing Conditions Exhibit dated September 26, 2023. I assume I can mark in as Exhibit A1.
Do we have smaller depictions for the board?
Not of these exhibits, no.
Not of those? Okay. At a later point in time, if you could, probably by the end of the week, if you could provide them to the board secretary?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And the second exhibit to mark into evidence is entitled Krishna Adult Daycare Overall Plan Exhibit, also dated September 26, 2023. Mark this as Exhibit A2. So the first exhibit, the existing conditions exhibit, is an aerial exhibit depicting the existing conditions of the site and the surrounding areas with the zone boundary and property boundary highlighted. And the second exhibit, A2, is a colorized rendering of the submitted site plan over top of that same aerial background, which is a three-color rendering of the proposed improvements and the landscaping shown, as well as the zone table. Going back to Mr. Shire's question, the existing conditions of the property, or first describing the property itself. It's located on the south side of Oak Tree Road, at the southeast corner of the intersection of Oak Tree Road with Minebrook Road, Minebrook Road being a private roadway. The site has 110 feet of frontage on Oak Tree Road and 833 feet of frontage on Minebrook Road. Overall, the property is approximately 3.7 acres, and it's located mainly within the OS zone, but unique to this property, or unusual, I guess I should say. There's a zone boundary line that cuts west to east, bifurcating the property. So the front portion of the property, where the existing buildings lie, is the OS zone, and the rear portion of the property lies within the LR, or residential zone. Surrounding the property to the north and east are commercial uses. To the west, there is a Hindu temple, and then to the south, there is a large apartment complex known as the Hilltop Apartment Complex. Now, under existing conditions, the property is currently developed. There's two existing buildings, a larger building of approximately 33,000 square feet located near the central and eastern portion of the property, and a second smaller building of approximately 1,500 square feet located fronting on Oak Tree Road. The larger facility is what Mr. Shire described as previously a bowling alley that is currently being renovated as to be used as a banquet facility. And the front building, formerly a Dairy Queen, has been repurposed as a restaurant. Associated with these facilities, there's a large paved parking area surrounding much of the site and covering much of the site. There's just a small portion of open space left at the rear southern portion of the site. You can see just a small strip of grass at the rear end there. Access to the site is currently by way of two access points, one on Oak Tree Road at the front of the restaurant, and the other access point is near the midpoint of the site on Minebrook Road. There are a few existing nonconformities, as Mr. Shire stated. There's a side yard setback for the larger banquet facility. 15 feet is required where 5.2 feet exists. And there's a parking setback from the building where 5 feet is required, 1 foot exists. Parking setback from the lot line where 5 feet is required, 0 feet exists. The parking actually encroaches beyond the property line. And then for the impervious coverage is an existing nonconformity where 65% is permitted, 78, a little over 78% exists today. Moving on to the proposed conditions, in Exhibit A2. The applicant's here tonight seeking approval to repurpose a portion of the larger 33,000 square foot facility to use the northern 9,990 square feet of that facility as an adult daycare. Again, this is a use variance, as adult daycare is not permitted within this zone. The remaining 22,179 square feet of the building is to be used as a banquet facility that has been previously approved by the township. The building renovations, which will be discussed a little further by we have an architect here that'll discuss that a little bit more. But their internal renovations as well as some external renovations are being performed to kind of rejuvenate the site and the building and to repurpose it for the proposed uses. Some of the modifications include creating a new entrance for the adult daycare facility. So the adult daycare is the smaller rectangle on the northern portion of the site. A new entrance is proposed about the midpoint of that northern facade, and a canopy will extend over into the parking area where there will be a pickup and drop-off area for the vans dropping off guests. The front building, which is an existing restaurant, no changes are being proposed for that facility. The proposed parking area is to be mostly kept within the existing footprint of the existing parking area. So the existing pavement's going to be milled, overlaid, and repaired as necessary, and new striping is proposed for the entire site, including around near the restaurant area. The access way from Oak Tree Road is to be closed off, and that was a request of the county. These plans have been submitted to the county already, and we have received some review comments. So that access way is to be closed off. The new access ways to the site, there's going to be 2 access points on Minebrook Road. The first access point is going to be about 150 feet down Minebrook Road away from Oak Tree Road, and the second access point about 450 feet south of the intersection with Oak Tree Road. Since the facilities are going to be operating under a shared parking agreement, where 181 spaces are required, there's a total of 219 spaces provided. It's feasible just mainly due to the differing hours of operations for each facility. The restaurant, the daycare are mostly morning and afternoon operations, where the banquet facility is going to be evening and nighttime operations. The proposed parking includes 10 handicap spaces that's dispersed in front of the banquet facility. We have some handicap parking proposed at the daycare and then also in front of the existing restaurant facility. And there's also 6 make-ready EV spaces provided. Again, all of these in accordance with township and state regulations. The proposed spaces are sized at 9 foot by 18 feet. Drive aisles at 24 feet wide in accordance with the township ordinance. The site will be mostly two-way traffic, but there is an area adjacent to the banquet facility where there's a loading zone provided. In this area, the drive aisle is restricted to a one-way movement. So in this area, we have 45-degree angled parking and one-way traffic from the front of the site towards the rear banquet facility. Going back to just this pickup drop-off area, so we have access on Minebrook Road, and we're providing this pickup drop-off area on the northern face. This front parking area is actually going to be utilized mostly for just the daycare and restaurant space. Surrounding the back portion of the parking area, we're proposing a 3-foot-high decorative wall. That was part of a request from Mr. Bignell's office to provide some screening for this facility. And we'll have gates that separate the back parking area from the front parking area. So the front parking area and drop-off area will be used only for the daycare and the restaurant facility. Again, truck movements have been provided that show emergency vehicles, vans, trashing, garbage collection trucks can all make the movements within the site. and doesn't seem to be any issue there. So the site has been designed really to provide better circulation than previously provided, and it provides safe and adequate circulation for all proposed vehicles. Just to touch on the garbage trucks that are circulating the site, we are providing 2 dumpster enclosures, one located at the rear of off the southwest corner of the existing restaurant, and then one off the southeast corner behind the banquet facility. And again, there's no new variances created. Actually, 2 existing nonconformities are being improved by the proposed conditions. Again, the impervious coverage, which was previously a little over 78%, is being reduced to 77.4%, where 65% is required or permitted. And the parking setback from the lot line, where 0 feet exists today, we're improving that to a setback of 2.7 feet, where 5 feet is required. Moving on to stormwater management. This is actually, this is not considered a major development. We're not, since we're milling and overlaying the parking area, we're not disturbing more than an acre of land. We're keeping the disturbance within the existing disturbed and paved areas, and we're not increasing impervious coverage. In fact, we're actually decreasing impervious coverage. So we're not triggering the stormwater management regulations. This stormwater runoff will continue to travel as it does today, which is traveling from east to west towards Minebrook Road. One of the ways that we're maintaining that, and that was a question in Mr. Bignell, Mr. Carley's letters, was where curb and edge of pavement are provided. So in order to allow stormwater to continue to maintain its existing drainage pattern, we're maintaining an edge of pavement along much of the parking area as it is today. We're only providing new curb along Oak Tree Road and at the entrances on Minebrook Road. And again, the Oak Tree Road requirement was based on the county requirement in order to close off that entrance. And then we wanted to formalize the entrances on Minebrook Road, so we're providing curb. But the remainder of that edge of pavement is not curbed, and that allows the stormwater to flow as it does today. And all existing utilities are to be continue to be used. There's no new sewer, water, gas, electric, all the existing utilities that will be used. Moving on to landscaping. The applicant is providing a substantial amount of landscaping, including street trees along Oak Tree Road and Minebrook Road, perimeter parking plantings, including shade trees, shrubs, evergreens, and flowering trees along the rear of the property and the southern portion of the property to provide some buffering and to beautify the site. Calculations have been provided for the perimeter landscape and buffering and replacement trees. 181 trees required. We're providing slightly less than that, so we'll work with Mr. Bignell's office, make sure that we satisfy the tree contribution when we have a final number for how many trees we are short on the tree replacement calculation. But currently we're providing 43 shade trees, 27 evergreen, 5 flowering trees, 307 shrubs, and 403 ground covers, daylilies. Again, things to beautify the site, provide some buffering and perimeter plantings. And finally, in regards to the proposed lighting design, we're designing the site to be safe and adequate to meet the township requirements. 11 pole-mounted LED fixtures are provided at 24.5 feet high, 24.5 feet high, yep. 3 wall-mounted LED fixtures mounted at 12 feet high, and the light levels are at an average of 1.69 foot candles and a minimum of 0.5 foot candles within the parking, loading, and access aisles. And again, all these levels meet and exceed the township requirements. And that really sums up my testimony.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Soleil, you've had the opportunity to go over Mr. Bignell's report, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and I know you've already responded to some of the issues he raised. Now, obviously, we are going to get approvals from all necessary agencies and authorities before obtaining our building permits, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Item D, the drop-off area, we have provided a covered drop-off area, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the applicant intends to have all pickup and drop-off done by vans, which are being supplied by the daycare center, correct?
Correct.
There will not be any private motor vehicles utilizing this drop-off area.
Correct.
All right. You've already gone over the parking lot curbing and improvements. We are going to be resurfacing and restriping the entire parking area, correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Bignell indicated that he might want to see relocation of the refuse area from what appears to be the main entrance to the adult daycare.
Yes, the current location works. We're willing to work with Mr. Bignell to satisfy that comment and come up with a new configuration should that satisfy him. I mean, we think the current configuration works, but if he would like that moved, we can do that.
Yeah, so having it across the way is probably a little better, just so it gets a little out of the way from the entrance of the daycare, but that could be something that we can figure out in resolution compliance. We don't have an issue with that right now.
Okay, great.
For approval purposes.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, with regard to his comments regarding the screening from Minebrook Road, we have provided some plantings, correct?
Yes, we have.
And we also are proposing, he wanted at least a 36-inch high decorative wall. We're providing a 48-inch high decorative wall, correct?
So we're currently proposing a 36-inch high decorative wall. I know we had discussed something different, but yeah, we're currently proposing a 36-inch high decorative wall to satisfy that comment.
And the landscaping plan, we've submitted our landscaping plan. If there is something else Mr. Bignell wants to see, we will work with him to satisfy that comment.
That's another one that we can work out during resolution compliance.
All right, and the applicant.
Mr. Shire, hang on, Mr. Shire, you're speeding up. If so approved, would the applicant agree to work with Bignell Planning on an acceptable landscaping plan? for the
Absolutely.
site? Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Bignell's office would like to see an irrigation system protect the new plantings, and we will agree to that also, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have no other questions of Mr. Saleh.
Okay, so since we're on Mr. Bignell's report with letter G, the access easement for Minebrook Road.
Yes, I would indicate for the board that Minebrook Road, while it was originally a private road, back in 2016, the board on another application, which fortunately I handled for Sri Umaya Parivar Religious Center, found that since that road has been utilized by the properties along the road for over 25 years, back then, now well over that, that it was a prescriptive easement which could be utilized, and Ms. Shah is aware of the time restrictions on a prescriptive easement, which requires, I believe, 24 years or 25, but we're well over that number, and I do have copies of the page from that resolution indicating that there is a prescriptive easement. The reason we are utilizing Minebrook Road is because the county wanted the driveways to Oak Tree Road closed off, which we've shown on the plan.
And Ms. Shaw, you're in agreement?
I just want to see the resolution, that page, but I am in agreement that there is a prescriptive easement if that in fact is the case.
All right, so we'll give you a few minutes to review that. Mr. Bignell, do you have anything?
Yeah, I got a couple quick questions. For item B, The building, obviously, since it was a bowling alley, it looks like a bowling alley. Is the outside going to be repainted and refinished to be more in line with the proposed use?
It will be, and we have an architect here that can testify to that.
Okay, and then for item E, I know you guys testified that they will be using vans. Is it only going to be vans, or are there also, and like, are they going to be? Do they have their own kind of cars or buses, or is it just strictly vans? And then where exactly? I'm assuming they're going to like be parked over there overnight. Is there a specific area on the plans that they're going to be parked in, and how many are in proposed?
I do have one of the principals of the daycare center here to testify, but I was told there will be approximately 5 to 7 vans utilized, and they will be parked on the property.
Okay, and now in terms of the pickup drop-off area, as you see from the letter from the traffic control coordinator, is it going to be like staggered, or is it going to be all at one time? Just for pickup and drop-off purposes, it seems a little crowded to just have to pull in and then back up or do the K-turn maneuver to get out.
Well, since the only pickup and drop-off are going to be by company vans, it's obviously easier to arrange everything to work smoothly under those circumstances. And there only will be 5 to 7 vans total. And of course, they can't all arrive at once.
Why not?
It's just different vans picking up different people at different times.
But what's stopping them from all coming at the
Well,
same
even
time?
if they did, they would all be utilized in a manner which makes sense, so they're not all lined up.
Okay.
Since we're on this subject, Mr. Bugnell, you read my mind. I did have a concern. I did actually flag within, and I'm going to read into the record from Sergeant Winter's letter. While looking at the interior layout of the daycare, I find that the desired drop-off location does not make sense when it comes to circulation in the lot. If you have a vehicle pull into the drop-off area, they'll have to either back out of the area or do a K-turn. If you have a queue of vehicles waiting to drop off, this will create an issue. My recommendation would be to change the front entrance of the daycare to be on the Minebrook side of the building. This will allow vehicles to circulate through the bigger part of the parking to exit. Any markings and signage should be in compliance with the manual on uniform traffic control devices.
Yeah, I think that comment presupposed that there would be private passenger vehicles making the pickups and drop-offs, not a limited number of vans all operated by the facility. I mean, I would agree with it if it were just a massive amount of private passenger vehicles coming with individual clients. This situation is resolved by having only a limited number of vans doing all the pickup and drop-off.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chairman.
how many vans can be in the area at one time? To have a proper flow?
Right. I can have Ms. Shaw give you the answer to that question if you wanted
So
it
we can-
easier
so
for her to testify right
Let's
now.
let's finish with Mr. Soleil, and then we can go.
So the vans will be operated by employees, and again, there's only 5 to 7 vans. So there is a drop-off alleyway there, but I think it's simple enough that we did provide a turnaround space where I think once the employees kind of understand it, have worked there, they can see that if there's a current van down at the end of the drop-off area, to pull into a space to wait for them to clear, and then they can head down and drop off guests under the canopy area, and then make the same maneuver out. Again, five vans throughout the course of the morning. It's my understanding the vans are picking up the guests or the customers at their houses and then bringing them to the facility. So depending on where everyone lives, the vans are going to be reaching the facility at different times, most likely. But again, if there's, one van that's already there at the drop-off area, the other van can pull to the side. There's more than enough parking where they can pull to the side and wait for that van to clear.
I don't see there being the guarantee that you're not going to have multiple vans arriving at the same time. It's just it's not there's no control. I think that the control would be on this initial circulation plan. No, I got you. It's okay.
I think Ms. Shaw can respond to the issue since she knows the operation of the daycare.
Okay. Mr. Bignell, do you have any additional?
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Carley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application was initially filed in the early part of 2021, and here we are at the later part of 2023. We got revised plans last week, and we issued a report.
Mr. Carley, can you talk into the microphone? I'm having a hard
I'm
time.
sorry, I'm very bad with microphones. And we issued a report that reflects the history of the plan revisions. Mr. Zalay touched on the bases that we suggested. They did provide testimony relative to solid waste storage. It's my understanding from Mr. Zalay's testimony that the dumpster spaces are going to be relocated, and we'll adjudicate that if the board looks upon this favorably in resolution compliance. I would expect that Mr. Shire would put testimony on relative to fire suppression. But other than that, and you see the irregular numbering in my latest review, that's because we've done many reviews before and old comments have been struck. And once they're struck in subsequent reviews, they're taken out. So in terms of a site engineering, I'm comfortable with it. Even in terms of their, and I always defer to Mr. Bignell and Mr. Bignell. The three-point turn, I'm from a different generation. We didn't have backup cameras. We can do three-point turns. So I'm comfortable with that arrangement as long as they can provide assurance to the board that they're not going to stack up buses to interrupt the ability of a drop-off bus to do a three-point turn. And anything I said, Mr. Shire, that makes you spit?
I think we can satisfy any concerns regarding the drop-off and pickup with Ms. Shaw's testimony. But Mr. Zalay, you've reviewed Mr. Carley's report, correct?
Correct.
And we can comply with all of his concerns and recommendations, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We've kind of whittled down the comments to just a few remaining, and we have no objection. I think we can work with Mr. Carley.
The other agency, Mr. Chairman, that they'll have to address is the County Planning Board. They have a conditional approval of March of 2021 in terms, and that speaks to right-of-way dedications, et cetera, et cetera. And I expect that you're going to comply with that report also.
Obviously.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carley. Mr. Soleil, have you received the Division of Fire letter from Fire Chief Andy Toth?
Yes.
Okay. So in the second sentence of Mr. Toth's letter, he says, Division of Fire finds the fire plan submitted does not show an SU-47 fire truck turning radius to be in compliance with the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code.
Yes, so that's, it seems like a recent change that the fire official made in moving from the fire truck that we've used at our office for many years to the SU-47. Today, we actually, when we received the letter, we ran the SU-47 to show, and internally, and we're comfortable that we can make the movement work. It doesn't impact the design of the site. So when we make resubmission to satisfy the conditions of the approval, we'll submit that to the fire official for review. But in running it, we're comfortable that it doesn't have any impact on the site.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll put the board's attention to sheet 15 of the site plan, the fire protection plan. And as Mr. Zoy indicated, back when the plan was first drafted in June of 2022, at my and Mr. Bignell's suggestion, the typical Edison fire truck was 45 feet. Now the typical Edison fire truck wheelbase is 47 feet. So young Mr. Zoy's testimony, I can give you assurance, is pretty accurate. It's in addition to 2 feet on the wheelbase of a fire truck. But Mr. Zoy is going to have to make sure he gets a letter from Chief Toth that agrees with his testimony.
And if so approved, that'd be a condition.
Yes.
We have to keep the fire chief happy. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Saleh? Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chair, I want to just say first, Mr. Chalet, your presentation was very thorough and very involved. And I want to say that I wish I had those pictures to follow you in your presentation. I'm speaking for me. I don't know how other members of the board feel, but it would have been very, very handy, convenient, to follow your testimony, which I thought was very accurate. And I just want to say that for the record. On the other hand, now, talking about the pickup and drop-offs in 507 vans, Mr. Shire said that the hours of operation was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday to Friday.
Yes, sir.
And there's some conversation about, is there going to be congestion in the drop-off point with these 507 vans? So that my question then is, are there pickup and drop-offs all day, or is it just a morning time? Afternoon, or-
as I indicated, I have the one of the principals of the daycare here to testify how it occurs, and I believe her testimony will satisfy any questions the board or its professionals have regarding pickup and drop-off.
That's fair. Thank you. I await that testimony.
Thank you for your comments. And for the future, I will bring, because I know this is a large courtroom, so I will bring
Small
exhibits
version
for.
would be okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Well, it's not a courtroom. I didn't get that degree. But does the board have any other questions for Mr. Saleh? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. It's 8:30. We'll be back at 8:35.
No, it's only him about the size of the room.
All right, we'll return to session. Ms. Shaw?
Yes, so in the interim, and a portion of a, excuse me, a portion of a resolution was handed up to me that the planning board entered in 2016, December 19th, 2016. And basically, give me 1 second. Basically, it indicates that William Lund, and I'm losing my voice, so I apologize, that William Lund, the applicant's engineer at the time, was found to have indicated that Minebrook Road and Cinder Road were both. You can't hear me? Okay. Mr. Shire, I'm going to ask you to just summarize what I was going to say about Minebrook Road.
All right, yes. The prior application of the Sri Umaya Parivar religious organization, which also utilizes Minebrook Road for ingress and egress, even though it is a private road, it was found by the board, the planning board, back in 2016, that since this road has been utilized by the people on both sides of the road, as well as the original owners of the road, that for over 25 years, there was what is called a prescriptive easement for the people having driveways onto Minebrook Road for purposes of ingress and egress. A prescriptive easement, as Ms. Shaw will tell you, is where there is open and hostile, and by hostile I don't mean nastiness, but just open and obvious use of a roadway or a path by someone who doesn't own it, and it's obvious to everyone that it's being utilized for over 25 years. At that point, the owner loses the right to contest anyone's utilization of that roadway for ingress and egress. It was found for the Sri Umaya Parivar, and essentially the same situation exists for my client's property. And the board so found back in 2016, and since it was over 25 years then, it's way more than 25 years now. And therefore, we have the right to utilize that roadway, and the county recognizes that an easement exists over that roadway, and that is one of the reasons that they requested that we cut off the driveways to Oak Tree Road.
And I concur with everything that Mr. Shire has indicated, only to just simply say that I believe it's 20 years on the prescriptive easement, and it's well in excess
I think
of 20
25 years might be the common law.
Right, so it's well in excess of 20 years, and as the planning board has already accepted this prescriptive easement, that same finding would apply for our purposes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shire.
All right, I would call Kamini Shah.
Ms. Shaw, would you raise your right hand? Would you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Just pull the microphone
Speak into
in.
the microphone and speak clearly so everyone can hear you.
You can have a seat.
Ms. Shah, you're one of the principals of Krishna Adult Daycare?
Yes.
And could you please advise the board with regard to the pickoff and drop-off of the clientele? This is going to be done by from 5 to 7 vans supplied by the Krishna Adult Daycare Center, correct?
Yes.
And can you please tell us how the pickup and drop-off occurs? Is it supervised, unsupervised? Give the board the benefit of your knowledge.
Okay, so
Michelle, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you could bring the microphone closer to you. You just bring the podium of the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Shire.
Okay. All right. Yes, once they are drop off at 7 o'clock, they are drop off under the supervision of a registered nurse. So it's not like they can all come out at once. This registered nurse has to be there to get dropped off from the van, so they don't have any fall issues. So without the supervision of RN, they cannot get out. So if all of the 5 vans occurs at the same time, After the first van is done, they have to wait until the RN to be free from the first one, then go to the next one, then their drop off. And once they are in the building, they are inside for 5 hours. It's a 5-hour program, so they're not getting in and out.
So there would be no conflict between the vans arriving.
Together.
Even if 2 or 3 vans arrived at the same time, they would not be lined up behind the drop-off point.
Even if they are lined up, they are getting dropped off with supervision, with registered nurse. So she has to at least finish one and go to the next van's door. So once the 10 people are inside, after that, the other van can open up with her permission.
All right, so then after the first van drops off the people, it would leave, and the second van would be
Come
able to
up,
pull in.
pull in.
Is that your testimony?
Yes,
So with regard, so you say it's a 5-hour program, so if they arrive at 7 a.m., they depart by noon?
yes.
And then is there another group that comes in?
The other group that comes in for 5 hours.
And what time do they come in?
After the 5 hour, we need a little bit gap to clean up the area for hour or hour and a half. Then about 1:30 or 2 o'clock,
Okay, and then that group would then be in from
2 to 7.
2 to 7. Okay. All right. And then do you know with regard to the banquet facility, do you know what the hours would be for that?
Basically, it will be evening hours, and most of the events, parties, weddings, they're on weekends, and the adult daycare is closed on weekends.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Shaw?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chairman O'Gorman?
Can you show us on Exhibit 2 where this parking, how the van's going to operate coming in?
Yes.
Mr. Slay, if you could just bring up my microphone. Thank you very much.
So if we go back to Exhibit A2, the vans will enter from the most northern access point on Minebrook Road. They can pull straight across the drive aisle and drop off right in front of the northern entrance to the daycare facility. From there, they can make a U-turn or a K-turn and pull back out past if there's vans that happen to pull behind them, they can pull back out. There is enough room to do that where 2 vans can be side by side. I think the issue that I think we see is making that turn to get back out. One thing that we discussed during the break was that there is a significant amount of concrete between the drop-off area and the building that we can take a look at to redesign to allow more of a turnaround space for these vans to make that K-turn and then turn back past any other vehicles that may be stacked behind them. Again, 5 vans in the morning, 5 vans in the afternoon, and they're all employees of the facility. To make that one turn twice a day, we're comfortable with that. The facility is comfortable with that.
How many individuals in the van?
About 10 to 12.
You're saying a supervising nurse. Where is the supervising nurse, in the building or in the van?
Supervising nurse comes in the building before the operation hour starts. So let's see, when the van is right here, she has to be out of the door and right next to the van door to supervise the clients. So in case if they fall or something, she's supervising them.
All right, one more. From the traffic control coordinator, his recommendation is to move the entrance. Would you be agreeable to that?
I mean, in looking at it and talking with the architect, there's a lot of electrical equipment that's on the western face of the building that just doesn't make it viable to shift the entrance to that side. And again, with the configuration of the parking area and beyond to the banquet facility, I think we'd have the same issue where vehicles would pull towards the banquet facility and then have to exit back the same way. So there would have to be a turnaround. So it just, the reason it was designed this way is it seemed it was the best location for the entrance when it comes to the big picture of the site.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Hernandez-Prince?
Thank you. I was wondering, how many adults are you expecting in the morning group and then in the afternoon?
Right now, I don't know at the moment, but it's gonna grow gradually. I'm assuming I can start with 10 people.
Or the capacity for the space that you currently have or project to have?
190, I think the capacity is 190.
Okay. One more question, that's a
Go ahead.
follow-up. Are there any other adult daycare centers within, I don't know, a 5-10 mile radius of the current proposed location?
I think so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Patel?
Will there be any food delivery truck coming on the site? Or any kind of delivery?
We have a restaurant on site that we're going to use that is also on site, cross from that door. So there will be no vehicle involved for the restaurant food bringing in.
Okay.
Mr. Carly, you had something to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe it was Mr. Zoy's testimony that he's going to relocate the dumpsters from that area. So he will have the opportunity to make that three-point turn even bigger. This is not a residential site, but if it were, that would be compliant with the residential site improvement standards as a cul-de-sac, that three-point turn. Perhaps the applicant should consider putting, and we see them when I come here from the southern parts of the world, I take Wooding Avenue in front of the Skylark, and the DOT recently has done what they've been doing in New York City for a generation, don't block the box striping. And so perhaps you might consider don't block the box striping and enlarging that three-point turn movement. But that's a you decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good recommendations with the don't block the box. And again, I think with the additional concrete area between the drive aisle and the building, we do have the flexibility to expand that area and then have that don't block the box.
Mr. Soleil, if so approved, you'd agree to that?
Yes, agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chairman?
the deliveries, can you show us on A2 where the deliveries come to?
Well, we do have a loading zone adjacent to the banquet facility for that area, and then deliveries for the daycare would have to be off business hours, and that would be for any medical, requirements, food requirements. But again, we do have space at the front of the facility. We have space on the western side of the facility where those deliveries can be made.
So where were the deliveries? Are the deliveries going to be utilized?
With this being the entrance on the northern side, if these were during off-business hours, the delivery vehicles could pull into that access area and make the delivery through the entrance and then make that turnaround, same as the vans. So not expecting big, SU, tractor-trailer trucks or anything. It would be smaller delivery vans.
The vans will be utilizing the same delivery entrance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions for Ms. Shah? Mr. Barone?
Mr. Chalet or Ms. Shah, Mr. Shire said that this is going to be a banquet hall, restaurant, and adult daycare. Are the other facilities using the same drop-off point?
So the banquet facility has its own loading area. Right, and its own entrance. So there's two entrances on Minebrook Road. So one entrance is for the banquet facility, and the other entrance is for the front restaurant and the daycare.
So the drop-off that we've been discussing is only for the adult daycare?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then, Mr. Barone, just the restaurant facility, Mr. Soleil is blocking the.
If I could see it, I would not have asked that question. Thank you.
So the restaurant facility is in the front of the property.
fronting on Oak Tree Road.
Yes. All right. Any other additional questions for Ms. Shah or Mr. Saleh? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Call Michael Testa.
Mr. Testa, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name for the record.
Michael V. Testa.
And Mr. Testa, if you would please just give a summary of your qualifications.
Yes, sir. Graduate, New Jersey Institute of Technology, School of Architecture, bachelor degree, 1991. Licensed architect in good standing since 1996. Owner and principal architect of the firm Michael V. Testa Architect, Manalapan, New Jersey since 2002. And I've had the pleasure of presenting in front of the board previously.
And we'll accept your qualifications. You may
Thank
proceed.
you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Testa, as a professional architect, you have designed the daycare facility and all the related construction for this project, correct?
Yes, I have.
All right. Could you please tell the board what is proposed in terms of this daycare center?
Okay, I'm going to move across the room to the easel. The boards that I have are sheets PB1 through PB4, which have been distributed to the board previously to this meeting. And the board I have up on the easel right now is sheet PB1. Now, what PB1 depicts is the 9,900 square feet of space that's being utilized for the adult daycare center. The plan is oriented that you have Oak Tree Road at the top of the plan, you have Mind Book on the left, and you have the Patel Brothers and Hilltop over here on the right-hand side, the easterly side. As Mr. Zalay had indicated, we have a drop-off carport at the top of the page. You enter into the building at the center point of the building. The interior spaces are laid out by regulations dictated by the state of New Jersey's Department of Health, and the construction of the building is dictated through Department of Community Affairs, DCA. So when we go through building permit, DCA does the review, and the Department of Health does the preliminary review of the spaces and the requirements that are needed in the spaces. The building was previously a vacated bowling alley, so the building is a large wooden barrel roof that spans the entire building. There's no interior columns in the building, which makes it very flexible for an interior layout. So as you can see, we have a large open space, which is the activity/dining room area, where there's a lot of tables and chairs where the patrons will play cards, they'll have talk with each other, they'll do some games together, painting and so forth. The perimeter of these spaces consists of support areas. You have a very large toilet facility that's dictated by the state of New Jersey for number of fixtures per maximum number of occupants. We have a warm-up prep area. The question before was about food delivery and food use. This is not an operating kitchen in here. It's just basically a service kitchen where Ms. Shaw indicated food was going to be brought out from an outside restaurant, brought in and warmed up on hot plates, microwaves, prepared for the people, and then distributed through a pass-through window into the activity area. You have a staff space required by the state with certain requirements in that space, a locker room, refrigerator, et cetera. And then we also have an exam nursing area where the patrons can have medical care while they're at the facility. Pharmacy area, director's offices, and then a large quiet room, which is a room that's regulated by the number of chairs by the state. It's just an area where the occupants can go in there and take a nap and just have a quiet space to relax for a while. The exterior of the building, which is probably better seen on sheet PB3, are partial elevations of the building at this end of the building. Those familiar with the building, it's a very large building. Like I said, it's a bowling alley. The 9,900 square feet of the building is at the, I guess, northern edge of the building. What I've depicted here is that facade with new windows allowing for natural light to get into the building. The large semicircle element is the big barrel roof that's on the building already. We created a carport that is approximately 18 feet, 3 inches to the ridge, to the highest point. The bottom opening area, which will allow 14 feet minimum for emergency vehicles to get through, is sufficient for, almost all emergency vehicles, ambulances and so forth to get underneath there. One of Mr. Bignell's questions was full elevations to depict the exterior of the building to kind of reduce the look of an amusement type building. The building is currently being renovated with the permit from the other side of the building. The owner is painting the building, new stucco and cultured stone. So he's got two tones of gray on the building right now and a cultured stone base. That's actually being installed as we speak. They're going to wind up carrying that down the entire facade and around on all 4 sides. As far as signage is going to comply. It's going to be wall-mounted signage for the building in compliance with the township ordinance. And I believe that may conclude my testimony.
Right, Mr. Testa, there was a question raised regarding fire suppression. Is there fire suppression provided for in the architectural plans?
Not in these plans because they're preliminary, but there is a fire protection system in the building which will be modified for this type of use, which in a sense will be upgraded for the adult daycare facility. And those drawings will be submitted through the DCA, very difficult criteria that we'll have to satisfy.
And the DCA and the State Department of Health have approved the project?
To the best of my knowledge, they have.
Okay. And any fire suppression system will have to be in accordance with their requirements, correct?
Correct.
Let's see. With regard to the outside of the building, Mr. Bignell's report indicates he would like to see some repainting and refinishing of the outside. Is that going to be done?
Yeah, I just testified to the fact that the building is being repainted in 2 tones with accent painting, as well as a cultured stone base around the building.
I have no other questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Testa? Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
What's the projected time frame for starting construction and completing construction?
I don't have that answer. I'm thinking as soon as possible. I've been working on this building for a long time. The process through getting a DCA permit can be lengthy. It could be anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks, actually. So I don't have that information. Maybe Ms. Shaw can speak to when they want to get started.
Or how long it might take? Will it
The
be
construction?
yes.
The construction could probably take 4 to 6 months.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chairman?
what's the occupant load?
The occupant load is dictated, like Ms. Schott indicated, based upon the number of the square foot area of the activity space. Let me put that back up here. And if I recall, that occupancy load, the maximum load would be 190 people.
190.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Mr. Stella?
Does it have a handicapped entrance?
The building is fully handicap compliant. As I said, right now we have a clean slate. There's nothing in the area. So everything access into the building, out of the building. There's an additional means of egresses out of the building for safety purposes, for travel distance and so forth. And everything is completely handicap compliant. All the spaces are compliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stella.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chairman?
just the entrance is going to be used for the vans, the 5 to 7 vans with 10 people, with a capacity of 190. It's going to be for the deliveries and emergency vehicles. That one entrance is that's going to be used for all 3, correct?
Correct. We also put an additional door to the eastern side of the building, facing the Patel Brothers facility, where initially there's an existing concrete walk that runs along the back side of this building. Originally, we thought that could be used as well for deliveries from the rear, that they can walk down that walkway to get into the back. That's another option for deliveries as well, if not, they want to come through the front. But there is doors around the entire perimeter space if employees want to enter through one and exit through one to control, ingress and egress out of the space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. Mr.
Thank
Shire?
you.
Right. Now call Christine Cafone.
Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
And state your full name, please.
It's Christine Nazaro, N-A-Z-Z-A-R-O. Cofone is C-O, F as in Frank, O-N-E. Business address is 125 Half Mile Road, Suite 200, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. I am testifying this evening as a licensed professional planner. I've been qualified here in Edison and well over 400 or so planning and zoning boards throughout the state. I've been practicing for 28 years. I teach planning and zoning courses for the Rutgers Center for Government Services. My licenses are current and valid.
Thank you very much. We'll accept you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cofone, you've been hired by the applicant to provide the planning testimony for this application, correct?
Yes, I have.
And as such, have you familiarized yourself with all aspects of the project and, in fact, been present, listened to the sworn testimony given by the witnesses?
Yes, I have.
All right. Could you please give the board the benefit of your observations from a planning standpoint?
From a planning standpoint, this is an application for a use variance because while the subject property is in a commercial, split in a commercial residential zoning district, neither one of those zones, the LR or the OS, permit for adult daycare as of right. In fact, there are no zones in Edison Township that actually allow the adult daycare as of right. So we're here seeking a D variance for that use. As such, we either have to prove the D variance under the non-inherently beneficial Medici standards, or in this case, I believe that we would fall under the inherently beneficial use or the SECA balancing test for the adult daycare. There have been numerous courts in the state of New Jersey that have held adult daycare to be an inherently beneficial use. As such, we have to demonstrate that we satisfy the four-prong balancing test. The first prong is to identify the public interest at stake. In this case, I believe that the provision of the adult daycare is certainly promoting the general welfare and promotes the provision of adult daycare. If you look at the U.S. Census, the number of persons age 65 and above will more than double by the year 2030. In your pending recent master plan that you have, there is an acknowledgement that following nationwide trends over the past 21 years, Edison's population has become older overall, with its median age increasing. That section of your master plan goes on to read, gains among the senior population were especially strong in both Edison and the county, as well as the gain among those aged 50 to 64. So when you look at the public interest served in the inherently beneficial use, and you look at that prong to identify the public interest at stake, providing for adult daycare in an aging population certainly promotes the general interest. The next prong of the SECA balancing test is to identify any detrimental effects that would ensue from the grant of the variance, and then determine whether you can reduce those detrimental effects by imposing reasonable conditions. As Mr. Shire indicated, I have been here and listening intently and taking notes all night. Some of the things that I've heard, the board as well as your professionals express concern over is that drop-off area, and there seemed to be a concern that we have a separated drop-off area, which we do. There were some suggestions by your professionals, a don't block the box suggestions, things that we could do to enhance our drop-off. So I certainly think the board could look at the imposition of those reasonable conditions to meet our SECA balancing test. And the last prong is essentially to weigh the positive, the promoting the interest, as well as any negative impacts that would result from the grant, and then determine whether the variance can be granted. So when you look at the fact that also in the master plan, it talked about providing for additional community-oriented facilities, and particularly to improve the senior centers and to promote adaptive reuse. So while this is not a senior center, it certainly provides a nice alternative for senior citizens in the community. So I certainly, from a planning point of view, can say that this is an OS zone. When you look at the impact on the OS zone, right in the stated purpose or intent of that zone, it states to provide a reasonable use of land for non-residential purposes. That's right in the OS zone purpose in your zoning ordinance. And then when you look at what is permissible in the OS zone, you would be allowed to have medical and dental offices or similar related professional services and business and professional offices. So I believe that the proposed adult daycare will align nicely with what was really envisioned to be a non-residential zone. And then when you also look at the curb appeal, it was raised in the Big Nell letter about the curb appeal or lack thereof of the existing structure. And I think with the testimony provided by Mr. Testa, that we can be comfortable that the site will be significantly upgraded with respect to curb appeal. From the first and second issuance of the planner's report, we had also increased the landscaping on site. So I think that this is an opportunity to adaptively reuse and repurpose a site and really upgrade the curb appeal with it, with a use that is really beneficial and needed in the community. There are other adult daycares in Edison, but that is certainly not, in my opinion, not dispositive of any negative associated with this case. In communities, you have multiple child care centers, multiple restaurants. I think it's certainly beneficial to this community to have particularly with a master plan that acknowledges an aging population. So I can unequivocally tell you from a planning point of view, I have done several adult daycare centers throughout the state. We have always argued them as inherently beneficial uses. I see no reason why the board wouldn't find this to be an inherently beneficial use, and I do think that we meet our burden of proof with respect to the SECA balancing test. As far as the bulk variance that's related to this application, it relates in every instance to existing nonconformities. So in those instances, we are either not impacting them in any way, or we are impacting them in a positive way. With respect to the stormwater, or with respect, to the impervious coverage, we are reducing that. We are improving the parking setback, or we're not having an impact at all as on the building setback. So I can unequivocally say from a planning point of view that I believe we meet our statutory burden of proof for the grant of the variances under the SECA balancing test, and that any other ancillary bulk relief, to the extent it is not subsumed in that D variance, can be granted with no substantial detriment to the zone plan or to the public good.
I have no other questions of Ms. Cavone.
Thank you, Mr. Shire. Does anyone on the board have any questions for Ms. Cafone? Mr. Bedell?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All
We're
right,
good.
thank you. You left us speechless.
Try to cover. I take copious notes so I can deliver mine. I take notes as you're going. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just one question.
Carly.
For Ms. Cabone. Did she take a breath during her testimony?
She owes the court reporter a cup of coffee, though. That's
Yeah, I know. Did you see the dirty look when I said I would talk fast? That was slow.
All right, Mr. Shire?
That is the applicant's case.
Okay. All right. We will now go out to the public. We will begin with anyone within 200 feet of the subject site. If you're within 200 feet of the subject site, you have received a notice, be a certified now. Just a reminder that the members of the public will have 6 minutes to address the board. The public may ask questions, which will not count towards your 6 minutes. If you ask any questions, we ask that the questions be asked at the beginning of your appearance. Once you begin commentary, your timer will then begin. So we'll now go to anyone within 200 feet of the subject site wanting to be heard. Seeing none, we'll go outside 200 feet of the subject site of anyone wanting to be heard. Sir, you may approach the podium. So Ms. Cafone borrowed the microphone. So Mr. Shire, if you just put the one microphone back. Thank you very much.
Sir, if you would raise your right
Good
hand.
evening.
Sir, if you would raise
Chairman, Vice Chair, and board.
Hold on,
Sir,
sir.
sir,
audience.
Sir,
Again, we just have to be sworn in first.
raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And if you speak into the microphone, and if you could please state your full name for the record and provide us with your address.
My name is Ratilal Patel. I live at 62 Woodbury Road, Edison, New Jersey. And I'm here to support applicant for a daycare center. And we all support that. I'm talking behalf of them also. My name, yes, sir.
You can't talk on behalf of anyone else, but you can certainly give your opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I live in Edison since 1974. I came here in United States 1968, and I graduated from University of Tulsa in engineering. And I worked for GE for 35 years and retired. Right now, I'm 78-year-old. I am not a part of the daycare because I don't qualify for the daycare. But as you know that day by day, senior citizen population is growing in Edison, and we need more daycare centers. And there are many seniors are qualified to go and have a daycare center facility to, to use it. And government is helping them. So I know this family, applicant's family, since many, many years. They have been working with the community, with the seniors, and they helping all the time. I have been doing the programs. I was a president of Edison Senior Association, 1,100 members. I was also president of FISANA, North American Senior Association, and we have 10,000 members in that, approximately 10,000. And this family has been helping us all the time. They even provided us almost every year dinner, and our India's Independence Day celebration, they always help us. And besides that, the seniors, as you grow older, you become more religious. And also, across the street, there is a temple. So people can go and visit that after their hours, or the applicant can take them to the temple and they can pray there. That is all I want to say right now.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else outside of 200 feet wanting to be heard?
Thank you.
Last call. Can I get a
Motion to close the public session?
I second that motion.
motion made? Sorry, did you? Wait, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
We didn't. Sir, would you like to speak?
Yes, hello.
Okay. All right.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name for the record and provide your address.
My name is Nitin Vyas, and
I'm sorry. You got to do that again, a little bit slower.
my name is Nitin Vyas, and for Nancy, I for India, T for Tom, I for India.
Hold on, sir, hold on. Nitin,
Nitin Vyas.
it's,
My name is Nitin
hold
Vyas,
on a minute. It's Nitin.
Nitin Vyas, Vyas.
And can we have your address,
I'm
please?
staying in 1 Elder Drive, Edison, New Jersey, 08837. I'm here to support this application. I've been living in Edison since 1989. I'm the part of the community. I was vice president and the culture secretary for Indo-American Culture Association. We organized many of the events, and all this Indian senior citizen, what you see here, they were coming, they were elderly. Now more and more Indian are getting senior, and they need kind of space and the venue where they can meet up and talk and get together. So basically, the Edison is very close by, nearby, and many Indians are living over here. So we request your honorable, all the committee member to please support, and it is important to have a kind of, the adult daycare center in Edison, New Jersey.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public wanting to be heard? Last call. Anyone from the public wanting to be heard? Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public portion.
I second that motion.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Ms. Hernandez Prince. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed. Mr. Shire, as you can see, we have 6 board members present this evening. It is up to you as if you'd like to have a vote this evening or postpone for another evening.
Could I have just a moment to discuss with my client?
Sure, we'll give you 2 minutes. We're going to take a 2-minute break. All right, we're back in session.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I discussed the matter with my clients, and they would be satisfied for the board to vote tonight.
Okay. All right, that being said, so I'll go to the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Vice Chairman O'Gorman?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application based on the positive and negative testimony, the public interest, and the beneficial use to the public and the seniors. And also it'd be 5 to 7 vans, no buses. Hours of operation 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They have the approval from the Department of Community Affairs and the Department of Health. Will be in compliance with the engineering reports and also the planning board reports, and specifically the accepted landscaping plan, new irrigation system, and also comply with the prescriptive easement presented today, P08-2016. Comply with the Division of Fire and also the Department of Police letters, and also include do not block the box at the entrance. Thank you.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Patel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes on the motion.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. Unanimous approval. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
2 minutes to allow the next case to set up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I don't even know who that is.
I only have 2 for the 3 of us. My engineer's missing. Where'd you die? I'll have to ask my client.
All right, we'll return to session. Madam Secretary, next case on the agenda.
Yes, case number Z4 2023, Garden State Buildings LP, Dock Road. Applicant is proposing preliminary and final site plan approval to construct additional separate area for container storage and staging. Standards have not been met in accordance with the master plan. The proposed use is not a permitted use in this zone. Affected property is located in the RRRD zone, designated as block number 395, lot number 37 on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Still got it. Good evening, council.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having us here tonight. For the record, my name is Michael Vidiello. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of New Jersey, and I'm here representing the applicant, as you heard, Garden State Buildings LP. We are here for preliminary and final site plan approval, as you just heard, to construct a container storage yard. The lot, you heard it identified just in the summary. The lot is located immediately to the south of the Expo Center near the river. It's a large lot, over 600-acre lot. You may recall that we were, I want to say here, but we were actually on Zoom. Myself, my engineer, my client, we were on Zoom about 2 years ago for the exact same lot, and we obtained approval to put a small parking lot on this lot to the north, the other side of the lot, right next to the Expo Center. Tonight's application is a little different. It's all the way to the south on the other end of the lot, and this is a container storage yard proposal. I have with me here tonight, in addition to the representative of the applicant, I have with me here our civil engineer, same civil engineer you heard from last time, as well as the same professional planner that you heard from last time. So if it pleases the board, we could swear those witnesses one at a time or both.
We'll go one at a time, and without objection, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And state your full name for the record.
My name is Daniel Davies, Davies. I am the owner, engineer of Davies Engineering, but on this application, we were still operating as Golden Davies and Associates. The company did just transfer name, so it is still I am the engineer of record. I am a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey in good standing. I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering from the University of Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia. Wollongong, that's Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia, and I have a master's in infrastructure planning from NJIT. I'm also a certified municipal engineer, and I did present before this board 2 years ago on the parking lot application. And I've also presented in front of, I think, 30-odd boards in the state of New Jersey.
But we're your favorite.
Yeah.
But we're your favorite.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we'll accept you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. So, Mr. Davies, is it true that you or others under your direction and control have prepared the plans that were submitted as part of our application tonight?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So using the exhibits, which obviously were submitted as part of the application, and we have an additional copy here tonight, can you describe for the board where the property is located and what's proposed tonight?
Yes, I can. Should I take this microphone or that microphone? Does it matter?
You either or.
Okay.
Just make sure you put it back when you're done.
I will do that for you.
Thank you.
And I apologize in advance. We do not have the 11 by 17 copies. I would have certainly provided them if I knew. I know they are somewhat convenient sometimes, but I'm sorry we didn't provide them in advance. We could certainly provide them after the fact.
Were these already a part of the submission, though?
Yeah. Yes.
If they're
yes.
already a part of the submission, you don't need to, so we already have them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the 11 by 17s we usually ask, and we started asking as practice in TRC because it just makes it easier in the
It
days.
does. It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody likes to make my life easier, but you can proceed.
Thank you. And Mr. Davies, as you refer to specific sheets, again, can you confirm that is the plan set that was submitted as part of the application?
Yes, I can.
And just identify when you do refer to specific sheets, you could identify the sheet number. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have two sets of plans tonight. The first set is a 15-page submitted document dated 11/29/22, no revisions. And there's also a circulation and shipping container layout plan dated 6/8/23 as submitted, no revisions,
which was a follow-up to a comment from your board's planner. So the plans that we're going to look at today, I'm going to jump through the site plan before turning to the circulation plan. We did not provide 11 by 17 as discussed because there were no changes to those plans at this present time. So the property is located within, it's a 609-acre property located in the Raritan River Revitalization District, your RRRD zone. The limit of disturbance for this entire operation is 13.2 acres, and we're located right on the Raritan River. Around our property is being rather large. It's just south of the Convention and Exposition Center, and it primarily consists of wetlands, some upland areas, and we did come before the board back in, I believe it was March of 2021, for a parking lot that consisted of 256 parking spaces to be primarily used for additional parking for the convention center. So the proposed site plan that we're looking at today, I am turning to C3. This is the key map, just to give you a relationship between what we did before and what we're proposing to do now. This is the entire property, the 600 odd acres. Plan sheet north is north, and then the river is pretty much our southern boundary. All the way up the top, you'll see this little rectangular area. That is the parking lot that we had previously approved. That's about 256 spaces. Then all the way down along the river, you'll see what we're proposing for this application. And everything in between is combination of undeveloped wetland, upland areas. So you can see the scale of our development relative to the overall property. It's kind of very small. So the proposed storage area is accessible from Raritan. Actually, I'm gonna jump a little bit out of order this is our circulation plan that was submitted in June in response to how do we get to this location. Again, to orientate yourself, this is the property, 600 odd acres. This is what was previously approved, the parking lot all the way up near the convention center. This is our development down to the south. What you see on the bottom is an anticipated layout for the container storage. It's shown in red so you can see how many units and the stacking and so forth, which we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. But to access this location, we come off Raritan Center Parkway, which is all the way to the plan sheet north. We come around Olympic, and then we go on across Sweetwater. Presently today, there are other facilities along this route that do utilize tractor trailers, containers, storage, and similar features. So we are utilizing existing traffic patterns, if you will, for trucks to come from the north, traverse to our property. The proposed parking area will consist of an asphalt parking area itself, approximately 6 acres in size, and will have 3 ramps. Again, I will transfer this over to this side. Oops. And I just went back to the key map. So we do have 3 access locations. We have 1 to the west and 2 to the east. And the primary one is about the midpoint of our raised area. And each of the ramps are 30 foot in width, so they can accommodate 2 tractor trailers passing each other. And the intent of this property is to raise out of the flood zone area. That's why we are up at about a 16 elevations to flood elevation. Our grading starts at 17 and our high point is around 20. So that allows, unfortunately, if it does flood, this property will act as an island, essentially, and all the proposed storage containers would be protected on it. So what we're looking at doing right now is developing this property so it become a tenant space. So the use and the functionality of it would pretty much be catered to that tenant. The tenant that we're looking to put up there would be in that shipping container business, so they're very familiar with the operations of that. We are not providing any kind of structure. There is no water or sewer being provided to this property. Only electrical connection, if you will, for lighting will be proposed. So when it comes down to hours of operation, number of employees, we are looking at the tenant to work with us within lease agreements to come up with a functionality for this site. But it would be very typical to what you would typically see on this type of shipping container, because we do know that Edison has one or two of those. We were also looking at, with the proposed plan, I'm going to jump to the site plan, which is sheet C5A and 5B. So there's not much to the site plan. It's just a big open asphalt area. It is ringed with a depressed curb. There is not a full height curb. It's a depressed curb because we sheet across this whole parking area to rain gardens. And we do show on sheet 5B the principal ramp coming up that connects us to Sweetwater Lane. Now, if I go across to sheet 6A and B, this is the grading plan. And now you start to see the details of the whole project. Basically, it's a big mound that's relatively flat with a high point. Water basically comes from this high point and it sheets down into rain gardens around the entire perimeter, except for those locations where we do have the access ramps. We're also looking at doing a rail spur connection. And if you look at sheet I wish it all fit on one sheet, but it doesn't. We are proposing a rail spur connection. Also on this property and surrounding properties are rail lines. We do not have a continuous connection, but we are proposing potentially as a future opportunity to a tenant or someone who wants to come in to have a rail spur connection to increase and kind of rework these sidings. So we do have a ramp proposed on the northern side of this mound that does allow for rail access. At this moment in time, we're looking at a configuration of about 200 shipping containers on 3 levels stacked, where there would be a forklift or a lift truck that would be operated to lift it up. And again, that's on a tenant basis on how they do their operations. If a tenant does come in, they only need to do about 200 to 300 shipping containers, then a single level would be required. So we're only looking at a maximum of stacking height of 3 shipping containers. We did indicate that everyone's coming off Arrington Center Parkway to get to this property. There is a question of how do you get there? Well, the wonderful thing about technology these days, everything's done with GPS. I use my phone to get down to this meeting, so I wouldn't get lost. So all of the trucking companies pretty much use and operate with GPS, so getting to the property will not be a problem for them to locate it. Signage, we are proposing to put a sign at some point down near the entrance of the main drive up. That will be coordinated with your sign ordinance and going for the appropriate zoning permit once it's determined the makeup of that sign. We did discuss the grading, we are talking at a flood elevation of 16. The parking area starts at 18, gives us a 1-foot freeboard, goes up to a high point of 20 with a 2% cross slope across everything there. The side slopes of the mound are 3-to-1. That allows for easy maintenance, lawn, and easy lawn mowing services. There is an existing electrical transmission easement that runs along the, we'll call it the northern end of our mound, and we are covering it. But it is an electrical system, and we will work with the agency that owns that and make sure there's no issues with us doing our work that we're proposing. It is not a gas transmission line. At this moment in time, we're estimating about 17,000 cubic yards of fill material will be coming in. We're looking at about 950 odd triaxle trucks. Just to give you a scale, so it is an involved process. It's not an overnight process. We did go through a lengthy permitting process with DEP. We did obtain all of the necessary permits back in 2019 for wetland impacts, buffer impacts, waterfront development, and things of that nature. They were presented to the board previously for the parking lot because the whole project was considered as a whole with DEP, but we phased the permitting program with the town, with the parking being a phase 1, this being a phase 2. Also, we understood at that time it was considered a major stormwater management project because the disturbances for each area exceeded the acre plus the quarter acre of new impervious. So we automatically became a stormwater management major development project. As a result of going for the DEP permits, we had to do the stormwater. So Princeton Hydro, another engineering company specializing in wetlands and stormwater management and rain garden development, worked with us to develop the stormwater management report, which I believe was submitted with the application and was presented previously for the parking lot. And that shows the entire program for both components, if you will, on this project. I'm just going to jump to sheet 7A and B. We do show lighting. Lighting is around the peripheral of this area, but we are talking 6 acres, so we are about 12 feet above existing grade. So we didn't want to turn this into like stadium lighting up here, so we are using 20-foot high poles, and the design does call for high pressure sodium, which will be switched out for LED, which was commented on by the professionals. At this moment in time, we are requesting a waiver for landscaping, though we do want to point out that the rain gardens are about 15 feet wide and are about 34,000 square foot of area. In those rain gardens, you're going to have grasses, shrubs, and trees, all water-tolerant species that are going to be ringing the entire development. So even though it's not going to have the evergreen shade tree that grows to 40 feet, we don't believe that that's what you're shooting for with your ordinance, to have this development 14 feet in the air and then have a shade tree that could potentially grow 40 feet above that. We feel that with the greening and the way the landscaping is going to be within the rain garden will more than satisfy the landscaping. So that's why we're looking at the waiver for the landscaping component. We understand there are other permits for this project, and we understand that we need to get those from all those agencies having jurisdiction, be it the county, soil conservation, or any of those natures. We are in receipt of comment letters from the engineer dated March 6, 2023, the planner April 25th, 2023, and the fire department September 21st, 2023. And I believe we have addressed most of their comments and will address the significant comments that they did have through our testimony tonight. And the fire department, we only unfortunately just received, talking about accessibility to site, but we are talking tractor trailers. The tractor trailers we're talking about are going to be stationed or parked in an area about 10 foot wide by about 50 foot long. So if a tractor trailer can get there, we're pretty confident that a fire emergency vehicle can get to the site. Oops. It just doesn't want to stay. So again, just going back to the CP1 plan, which is the circulation plan that we presented. What you see on the layout down the bottom is just what we believe, based on our knowledge, our experience, would be a layout that would happen out here. Again, the red shows the 10 by 50 kind of parking spot, if you will. There's a drive aisle about 45 to 50 feet. and there is the rail spur coming up, and there's sufficient room for circulation around this. We did provide 2 access locations in case the potential tenant wants an in and an out, as opposed to a single dual way or 2 dual way. We are talking a number of trailers here, going from 250 on a single level up to 750 total if they go a 3-stack. So there could be a lot of traffic coming and going based on circulation and moving around. And the final layout is done by that tenant. So I believe that's my presentation today, unless anyone had any particular questions.
Mr. Davies, can I ask you a quick question just to clarify for the board? You mentioned that you're confident that this fire truck turning radius will work. Would you agree to provide the turning radius as a condition of any approval? Would you provide the turning radius plan just to confirm that?
Yes, we'll have a discussion with the fire department, and if they feel, based on our application, they would like to still see that, we'd have no trouble providing
Okay.
that.
And you mentioned the rail spur sort of as a phase 2. So I would confirm for the board that the rail spur would not be a phase 1, would be a potential phase 2 after the fact, depending on, well, likely the tenant. I'd also like to just indicate the applicant does not have a tenant identified at this time. It would be great if we did, but we don't. So we don't have a specific tenant that we can ID for some of those items that Mr. Davies mentioned. And there is a requirement, Mr. Davies, in the review letters for an as-built survey to be provided. And I think this came up at our last application because of the size of the lot and the small area of disturbance. We would ask that that as-built survey be limited to the area of disturbance and not the whole 600 acres. But other than those comments and clarifications, do you have any questions for Mr. Davies or comments?
I'll go to the board if anyone has any questions for Mr. Davies. Okay. Mr. Bignell?
I'm not Mr. Bignell.
I know, but I go to him first. B before C, Charlie. Hang on. Put your seatbelt on.
From Carteret and you know the alphabet. That's
I know. That's why I'm sitting here. Mr. Bignell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just going through our comments, you addressed most of the stuff. So you won't know how many workers and everything are because you don't have a tenant prepared, lined up, correct?
Correct. That would be dependent on the tenant. There are similar container yards adjacent to this site on adjacent properties. They operate in a similar manner, so we don't expect this to be employee intensive really at all. But that's correct. The specific number we would not know, but we would represent it would operate, as Mr. Davies said, similar to other yards of this nature.
Okay, and then next question, has the fire official reviewed this circulation plan that was provided?
Well, when we submitted that plan, we submitted the appropriate number of copies, and I'm assuming when that was distributed to everybody that it did make its way there, but I can't confirm that.
Okay, because I was just reading through their comments. It didn't mention anything about the shipping container levels, and so we were just like, if they're okay with it, we're okay with it. So that's where I was just going with that factor.
Understood.
So wasn't sure if they had reviewed and commented on that piece. So I was just trying to see if you guys put on record if they had or not.
Yeah, our plan was submitted, was it back in June, you said?
Yes, we did.
June, and this fire review came out a couple days ago, 2-3 days ago. So certainly the material was circulated, but you're right, his letter doesn't reference exactly what they were looking at. So I don't know.
Okay, and then can you put on record if any of the access roads would be inaccessible during any kind of rain or flooding events?
Well, we are right on a river, and we have wetlands around us. The roads to date do function and do not flood excessively in normal rain events, but in those events that do come up the eastern seaboard that would present a problem, any prospective tenant would be advised that accessibility may be restricted until the waters do go down, but we cannot guarantee without going through those events. I mean, if a Sandy came along, we're all out of luck. But on the rain that we've had the last, say, week, I don't believe there's been any problems with accessibility to the site that I'm aware of.
Not on that road now. Okay. Moving along. Will this facility be visible from surrounding sites or from the river?
From the river, yes. We are an elevated site. We are approximately 14 feet at its edge to about 18 feet or so at its center. So yes, we will be visible from the river, but based on the scale of the property being 600 acres, if you were at the convention center looking towards the river, you would see it, but it wouldn't be, I think the scale of your vision wouldn't give you the impression of its height.
And Mr. Bignell, my professional planner, he hasn't testified yet, but he'll talk about the visibility and the viewpoints and the distances to the various viewpoints also.
Okay. And then just last one, item L, is any tree removal proposed?
There are some trees that will be impacted with this development. The trees that are out there are pretty much all wetland related vegetation. There's a lot of scrub out there. During the permitting process with DEP, I do not believe they made an issue about any of the vegetation being impacted significantly, and we do have all those permits. So at this moment in time, we are requesting the landscape waiver, strictly because we are an elevated site with a 3-to-1 side slope, and we are putting out a significant footprint of rain garden that will have a significant number of terrestrial forest vegetations in there, from grasses to shrubs to trees. So we feel with that, with the nice landscape, the nice lawn on the side that will be maintained, I think that would be an acceptable offset, if you will.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bignell. Mr. Carley, you have the floor, sir.
I was champing at the bit, Mr.
I know,
Chair.
I know.
And in discussion with Mr. Bignell, we were discussing the stacking of the empty cargo containers. I expect that Mr. Davies can aver to the board that the proposal ultimately will comply with OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration Code of Federal Regulations 1918.85. I don't know that off the top of my head. I just have access to the internet. Crazy. Which talks about containerized cargo operations.
Yes, we do understand that we can't 100% control exactly what's inside some of these containers, but we do understand that some may be empty that are there. But through any lease agreement, I'm sure there'll be appropriate documentation in that.
And we would make sure that there's a requirement to comply with OSHA.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's my understanding, having done waterfront work on the private side, that DEP, and you've talked about going down the road with DEP, DEP has recently had interest in viewscapes towards rivers and waterways. And this is compliant with their the recent change in their regulations. I think they changed their regulations last year relative to waterfront development.
Our permit was issued, or the approval date on our permit, and a copy of this permit, I believe, was submitted with the application, was approved on May 21st, 2019, with an expiration date of May 20th, 2024. And one of the permits that we did obtain was the waterfront development individual permit. So
but you're compliant.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
You're compliant.
So we are compliant, but we haven't been approached to do anything further.
Yeah, and for the board's edification, looking at the Mr. Davies circulation and shipping container layout plan, if you look towards I'll call it the bottom end of the page, I don't know if it's the south end of the page, the river is bifurcated over there. I get out on the river and into the bay from time to time. That's Crab Island. And so the viewscape, you really can't navigate because it's too shallow, the river between Crab Island and the old Raritan Arsenal. But most of the navigation goes a little bit to the south around Crab Island. So I have confidence that Mr. Davies' testimony relative to the viewscape from the river is going to be limited because there's a significant separation when you come down the river from New Brunswick or from Sayreville, wherever you put your boat in. You end up coming down towards the south of Crab Island and then back around underneath the bridges in Sayreville. And so that's just for the edification of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Carley.
Thank you.
And also, just for the record, are you in receipt of the February 24th, 2023 letter from Sergeant Michael Winters of the Edison Police Department?
I personally have not seen that letter.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I'm not sure we are in possession of that one.
So, Counsel, I will share with you my copy. Just for the record, officer reviewed the above stated application pertaining to Lot 37 and Block 395. Proposed plan does not directly affect traffic flow. No further devices needed as per the manual on uniform traffic control devices. No further recommendations at this time.
Thank you.
I just wanted it into the record. Just
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Davies? All right, Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
If
you.
it pleases the board, thank you, Rachel. I'd like to present our professional planner, Mr. Kyle.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And state your full name for the record.
Sure. First name is James, last name Kyle, K-Y-L-E, with Kyle McManus Associates in Hopewell, New Jersey.
If you just give a brief summary of your qualifications.
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Planning and Design, which I received from Rutgers in 1996. I've been a practicing planner for about 25 years. Our office currently represents a number of municipalities as their consulting planner, as Mr. Bignell does for you. I've appeared before over 230 boards in the state, including past appearances before this board. As Mr. Vidiello said, we all worked on the parking lot expansion application in 2021. I'm licensed as a professional planner by the state of New Jersey. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners.
Great. We'll accept your
Thank you,
credentials.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kyle, real briefly, before you start, I would just like to ask, have you reviewed the municipal ordinance, the relevant sections as to the zone that this property is located in?
I have.
And have you reviewed the municipal master plan?
I have.
And you've also looked at the application as submitted and heard the testimony that was presented tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So based on the application material, the testimony you heard tonight, I'd like you to briefly describe for the board what burden the applicant is under right now with regard to the use variance and whether or not, in your opinion, that burden's met under this application.
Sure. So as Mr. Davies said, this property is located in the Raritan River Revitalization District. The zoning ordinance specifies a number of industrial-related uses. There's also some retail uses that are permitted, some manufacturing and assembly, warehouse and distribution, along with another handful of uses, recreational uses, electrical equipment, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, plumbing supply, things of that nature. So it's generally an industrial district. No residential uses are permitted in the district. So this particular use that we're seeking approval for tonight, we require a D1 variance for use that's not, principal use not permitted in this district. So our burden of proof is to demonstrate first the positive criteria. We have to show that the site's particularly suited to the use and that there are purposes of the MLUL that are promoted. And on the negative criteria, first address if there's any substantial negative impact to adjacent properties. And second, we have to demonstrate an enhanced quality of proof for a D1 variance under the Medici case. And that is that the grant of the variance is not inconsistent with the intent and purpose of the zone plan. And that proof essentially has to reconcile why this use is not permitted within the district. So on the positive criteria and the suitability of the site, I think the public welfare is promoted because the site's particularly suited. This is an isolated portion of this lot, as you can see from the circulation plan exhibit that's posted there. This portion of the property is about 4,400 feet to the south of the convention center. The closest use that we have that is adjacent, obviously the FedEx facility that was recently constructed just to our north, kind of straddles the Woodbridge Edison boundary. That facility is functioning. As part of that, they reconstructed Olympic Drive, basically all the way from Raritan Center Parkway down to where the FedEx facility is. And when you turn the corner there, it becomes Sweetman's Lane. And there's also an existing use there right along the river. It's some kind of manufacturing use, and they're using barges that are out in the river, and there's some cranes and some other things that are there. So the access is improved recently with the FedEx facility. The nearest developed site that we have other than the FedEx facility is immediately to the east in Sayreville, and it's about 3,300 feet east across the river. The only residential use that is adjacent to this, well, it's not really adjacent, but it's about 4,400 feet to the south in Sayreville. So there's one residential development on Sayreville Boulevard that's a townhouse development that is elevated, but it also has significant vegetation. As Mr. Carley said, Crab Island there kind of does a somewhat of a job of shielding that. But again, it's almost a full mile to any residential use adjacent. So given the isolated nature of this portion of the lot, it essentially has limited visibility. Even though we will be elevating the site to get out of the floodplain, visibility should be fairly limited based on the uses that we have. So further to the south, we have the power generation facility. There's also an old manufacturing facility that's in Sayreville that's to the south as well. But those are really the only uses that would potentially have view of this location. As we look at this site, as Mr. Davies said, it's primarily wetlands, ditches. There is some upland area where we're developing. But this is a really good use that fits in with this constrained portion of the site. So we already have the access that's constructed. We already have an improved roadway that we can utilize. And it makes use of a portion of the site that's probably not developable for many of the other uses that are permitted in the zone. As I said, this district permits a pretty wide variety of industrial uses. So this is something that would kind of be pertinent to those types of uses, this type of container storage facility. And we also have a large industrial presence in the area with the Heller Industrial Park, Raritan Center Industrial Park. So those are all users that could potentially make use of a facility like this. Those industrial parks, particularly Raritan Center, built quite some time ago. Containers were certainly used at that time, but not as extensively as we do now, in the post-COVID era with retail being what it is. We're also relatively close to the Port of Newark. So you're about 45 minutes up the turnpike to get to Port Newark. And that location is good. That proximity is good. So I think for all those reasons, the site is particularly suited. There are also purposes of the MLUL that are promoted. Purpose A, the general welfare. So containers and container storage are really an important part of the supply chain these days. If you read the Port Authority's website, everybody's always seeking locations for container storage. It's a use that's hard to come by. So this isolated property with limited visibility is a good location to do that, and it has good accessibility to our regional road system and good accessibility to the port. So the port said in 2019, they processed 4 million shipping containers through the port in a single year. So there's a lot of freight, and there's about 46 million people that live within 4 hours of that port that it services. So this is an important part of the supply chain. These types of storage facilities will keep that running efficiently. Also purpose G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations. I think based on the site suitability testimony, this is an appropriate location. And then finally M, which is the efficient use of land. So grant of the variance here allows for a use on a portion of the property that might otherwise not be usable for a permitted use. This makes good use of that portion of the property. In terms of the negative criteria, again, the first prong refers specifically to any impact to surrounding properties. So this property itself at 609 acres is almost a full square mile in area, which is big. As I said, we have primarily industrial and non-residential uses surrounding us. Any residential is almost a mile away. Visibility should be fairly limited. And as Mr. Davies noted, the rain gardens that ring the perimeter of this storage area are going to have vegetation within them that is going to grow and mature and also provide screening. So that'll add another layer of protection from visibility from adjacent sites. Finally, just addressing the Medici enhanced proof, I did review the township's 2003 master plan, the 2011 re-exam, and the most recent 2021 re-exam. There were some adjustments to some of the goals and objectives from 2003 to 2011, but the 2021 re-exam did not adjust any of those. So when we look at those goals, a couple of them are provide for future growth and development of Edison's rateable base, including but not limited to Raritan Center Industrial Park, Heller Industrial Park, Jackson Avenue redevelopment area, and the Route 1 and Route 27 corridors. Another one was discourage deviations from established land use patterns that would permit incompatible and/or conflicting land uses being developed adjacent to one another. And then finally, there's an economic development objective of plan for the future development of Edison's existing industrial parks. So I think when you look at these goals, those are clearly supported by this proposal. Again, fitting in nicely with the demand for a facility like this in the region. You know, Edison is positioned well, good access regionally, close access to the port. So it's an important component of, you know, the function of the supply chain and you know, the retail sales that we all engage in online and things like that. So I think here, you know, there were a number of other goals and objectives in the master plan. I don't think any of them would be negatively impacted. Again, as I said, this is squarely an industrial area. And then as far as reconciliation under Medici, again, I think the continuing evolution of the supply chain and retail sales, this is an important component of that. And really, it almost kind of represents a changed circumstance. While it wasn't necessarily referenced in the 2021 re-exam, you know, COVID, post-COVID has really changed how people shop, how we get goods, and this would be an important component of that. So I think that's an easy way for the board to reconcile it under Medici. Mr. Chairman, that's all I had in the way of direct. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Kyle? Seeing none.
Okay, thank you all.
Much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is the applicant's case. I will not burden you with a summary. It wasn't all that much testimony, but we appreciate your favorable review.
So we will now go out to the public if there's anyone within 200 feet of the subject site wanting to be heard. If you're within 200 feet, you have received a notice via certified mail. Seeing none, we'll go outside of 200 feet of the property. Anyone wanting to be heard? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public session.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Patel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The public portion is now closed. And Mr. Patel, you see there's only 6 board members present, so it is up to you as if you want to go for a vote this evening or if you'd like to carry it for another evening.
I just need 30 seconds.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant would like to proceed tonight. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That being said, we will go to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman.
to make a motion to approve this application based on the complying with the engineering reports and planning report, also the fire department letter and the police department letter, and also the response from Davies Engineering to the planners. It meets the positive and negative criteria. Thank you.
I have a question before that motion is, before there's a second. They requested an as-built survey as to the limited area of the disturbance. Is that something that the board would consider? That's one. And there will be a turning radius plan, 2, and I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. They asked for a waiver for landscaping, so I need to know about those 3. Can someone amend the motion accordingly?
Well, I'm still doing a motion, so I'll include that, yes. With the turning radius, that was in the fire department letter, and also the as-built, and what was the third one? Oh, the landscaping, the waiver of the landscaping, yes, that's part of the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadata. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes, on the motion.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes on the motion.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. Unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Madam Secretary, is any further business come before the board this evening?
There is not. Thank you.
Seeing none.
I would like to make a motion to end the meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hernandez Prince, seconded by Mr. Sadata. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The board stands adjourned. Thank you.